On this episode, Josh and I are pulling back the curtain talking about some of the biggest mistakes that I see people make as they step into the scary season of entrepreneurship.
Build enough demand to where it almost forces you to make that decision versus leave too early and there's not as big of a demand as they think. Or you have to ask yourself this question simply, I'm doing great with my job and this business, but if I actually let this go and I actually give this 100%, like what can it be?
But also how they weather the brutal ups and downs that most people never talk about.
There are months when it's been great. And when I say great, meaning like we've had a crazy amount of profit, and then there's been months where it's been break even. But it's not gonna always be up like it may be when you're thinking about making that decision, but it's not gonna always be down either.
Not to mention the real pressure of building a team that depends solely on you to get it right.
I wouldn't say pressure, but I guess when you're responsible for people, you go a little bit harder because it's not just you're thinking about now. You're thinking about your staff and what you want to make sure they're taken care of. And so now, as you used to count on your boss and your organization to make sure you were taken care of, now they're looking at you.
But we even share the unfiltered truth of what it actually took to build Mission 310 and the Earners Academy into what the company is today.
What would you say to somebody who is like, looks at you and be like, that happened overnight? His success wasn't organic. Like, he didn't have to put the work in. It was just given to him. What would you say to that?
It's funny that you say that because I had somebody actually bring this up the other day. That was like, man, everything is going great for y'all. Like, y'all are doing this. But what a lot of people don't realize about, especially my specific story and my background, is welcome back to the channel. Hey, we're going to be talking about a topic that a lot of people ask in personal finance and business. How do you transition from being a W-2 or a worker, everyday worker, to being an entrepreneur? I have a little bit of experience in that, but also just what are the key things that you have to look for when that actually happens? Today, I got my boy Josh here who works with us in the startup. Tell people who you are.
My name is Josh. I'm our CDO, Chief Data Officer with us, and I was working in the corporate world, and I took a chance to go work in a startup, and it's been going real smooth, man.
So tell us a little bit about that journey from going from, working, let's say 9 to you were in the car industry. So
Yes.
tell us the difference between where you are now and what made you make the leap. What was scary? What are some things you had to think about when making that decision?
The biggest leap was working 8 to 8. That just wasn't fun. But honestly, I would say the biggest leap is like just on an everyday basis having to figure out what to do next. Like, how can we improve? There's not really a set game plan of, hey, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing this. The day to day is more so figuring it out and being very proactive. And that can be a big contrast from a 9 to 5 where you can get away with just sitting at your desk most of the day, not doing much of nothing. You do your work. Can you walk us through what you're doing in your economic development and your corporate work, and when you decided to leave that behind?
Yeah, so previously was working, went to Troy, got a job in the mayor's office, which is in economic development, which for short is basically recruiting businesses. So in that role, I was responsible for going to meet with major companies like Publix, TJ Maxx, Hobby Lobby, and essentially going to recruit those businesses to Troy. So in that journey, I'm meeting CEOs, Fortune 500 CEOs, billionaires, multimillionaires. And honestly, the journey was, I was there 9 years. I would say my biggest thing when it came to that was this was all really by accident. Like I was learning a lot about finance there, but I had a credit repair business and was helping a lot of people and realized I kept having a lot of repeat customers. And so I started learning a lot about like why people are struggling financially. And then we started what is now the Earners Academy and Mission 310. So essentially two companies. So I didn't just jump off and say, hey, let's do one. Why not do two? And so we ended up doing that. And now we're standing on 2 feet and we're going into year 2, roughly about to hit $1 million in debt being paid off. So it's been cool, but it was scary. I would definitely say, the biggest thing about corporate is you can count on it, right? Especially in government. You know you're going to get paid every 2 weeks or every month. In a startup, it's all on you. But I think at the end of the day, when you're confident in your work ethic and what you're passionate about and serving people, it's not as scary as it may seem if you know that you're going to get the job done.
Right. What would you say those 8 to 9 years before starting Earners Academy and Mission 310? What would you say the groundwork and the lessons that you're able to learn, how they helped you build to today?
I would definitely say relationships. So in that world, there's a lot of people who come into economic development that are like, hey, I know I can go recruit, I can do that. But most of the time in the city that I was in was a very small town, maybe 19, 20,000 people. And so you really have to build relationships and people have to trust you because I'm asking these corporations to spend 20 million, 15, 30, somewhere's upward of $100 million into a city they're not familiar with. And so I'm having to go sell that vision of where the city is going. We have students, I was in a college town. And so having to sell that vision to them about why they should make the investment here. So when I transitioned to now it's essentially my vision now that I'm selling. So it made it a lot easier because obviously I believed in the city I was in, but I really obviously believe in what I'm building now. So, but it's not as simple as, hey, I'm going to go meet with a CEO. We're working with corporations now. Like the process of doing deals like with Publix and Hobby Lobby, they take time. And so you have to be really patient. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to go in and meet with them, meet one and say, oh, we're going to get Publix. No, some of those deals took 5, 6 years. And in this world where we're at now, I may meet with the CEO, then I may go meet with the HR director, then may go meet with a church, and I may have to meet the pastor, then the executive pastor, then come back up to the pastor. And if you're not trained and have patience to do it, you'll just quit and say, all right, this is taking too long. I'm going to move on to the next thing. And so we've been fortunate, over the last year to partner. We've got some big partnerships that I can't name coming up, but those take a lot of time. And so in that world taught me so much to where we are now, to where it seems like, okay, hey, he understands it, but it was 8 or 9 years of doing that to now. It's like, I get it. It's a long game that we're playing.
What would you say in those 8 or 9 years when you are looking back that maybe somebody else can relate to as far as what skills did you take from that corporate world? Maybe not necessarily the economic development side, but being in the working for the city and being uh, in the corporate world, what skills would you say you're able to take and use in today?
Yeah, so I think one, I had a great mentor. The mayor of the city was still one of my biggest mentors, but understanding how one corporate works, that was my first job. So obviously how to run a meeting, how to create an agenda, how to make sure that things are going fluidly, how to manage projects, manage people. It's different when you're managing people under somebody else's umbrella. It's a whole different game when you're managing them under your own. And now you're the person who can be sued and not be protected under an organization. So you have to know how to treat people. So I think one, integrity, doing things the right way. Like a lot of people in my space where I was in before would lie about certain things just to get a person to
Mhm.
come there. One of the things I would pride myself on is I would tell every business owner, because we were in a college town, hey, you're going to make a lot of money during the college season or like when kids are here, but you probably won't make that much in the summertime. And to the, let's say, a reverse effect, you would think that would be something people wouldn't share, but it actually made a lot more from what they've told me, a lot more CEOs trust me to make the investment because I was honest. So I just told them, hey, this is what it's going to look like. I'm not going to guarantee it's going to look great in the summer, but I will say during the times when a lot of people are here, it's going to be good. And so that's how we were able to get it. So I would say integrity, trust, but then also from an admin standpoint and management, I learned a lot of those skills in that job. And I think that's where, if my advice to people who are thinking about it, my best thing is pay your dues, like pay your time. Like a lot of people, not saying that that's not possible. Obviously, there are people who hit it out the gate, right out the top, hit it out the park, sorry, the first time. But if I didn't have those 8 or 9 years before, I wouldn't have been prepared for what's coming now for our business and the success and the momentum that we've had. So I would say, hey, pay your dues, pay your time, learn during that time. That's all I did was spend 8 or 9 years learning. I wasn't just meeting with these people. I was going to understand, hey, how are you building wealth? How did you create this company? How are you running this company? And if I don't have that now, I'm probably not running the company that we're running now at the same way if I didn't have the 8 or 9 years before.
Right.
So be a sponge. I mean, that would be the best thing I would say is like, if you're working in a job now, but you're thinking, hey, I have more gifts, I want to do more things, the season that you're in right now is not wasted. You just need to continue to water the ground and continue to let the things grow. But while you're in that season, just be a sponge, learn from people who are in places where you want to be, while you still have the security blanket. Because
Mm.
I will say this, people say, oh, go start a business. It can be scary at times
Yeah.
because it's not, nobody can bail you out. It's just you.
Right.
And so you have to be mindful of that. I'm sure, when you left your job to come work here, there's been, and we can be transparent, there's been times where like payroll is a
Mhm.
little bit later than normal. So that's not because the money wasn't there, but it's just
Right.
operating a little bit different. Whereas like, oh, I'm supposed to get paid on the 25th. It may be the 27th or 28th. So, I mean, I'm sure you can kind of attest to what that
Yeah,
experience.
so I would say making the transition for me, making the choice to make that transition was a little bit easier for me because I wasn't in a job that I necessarily loved. I was 20 years old, so I was willing to make a switch up somewhere and try new things. Um, but that may not be the same for everybody. And for you specifically, you left to start a company yourself, and you left a job that you seem pretty happy with and that treated you very well. So at what point did you feel like you were ready to make that transition to entrepreneurship, or did you even feel like you were ready?
I would say I was probably, I think the business almost forced me
Hmm.
to be out because I was making good money. I mean, north of six figures, doing really well. But I will say this: I think the big thing that really, and this is where I feel like a lot of people make a mistake, is they either leave too early, and there's not as big of a demand as they think, or you have to ask yourself this question simply: okay, hey, I'm doing great with my job and this business, but if I actually let this go and I actually give this 100%, like what can it be? And so obviously I'm working my job and I loved it. It was great. I had a great boss. Shout out to the mayor. But I think when I was waking up in the morning and I was realizing like, yeah, this is cool, this is great, but this is what I'm passionate about. And we were starting to see people get out of debt in record time. And I think the impact and the purpose of why we were doing it really started to change for me because I'm like, wait, if we've impacted, at this time, we probably had paid off, helped people pay off $250,000 in a few months. So I'm like, well, wait, if I spend more time on this, watering this garden here that's growing, that's impacting more people. What happens if I just let this go? Although it was less, I was at the time, like I said, I was making great money, but it just wasn't enough. Like, a lot of people say, oh, well, how could you leave such a great job with security? But I realize when I'm watching families cry about the impact that we've made and how people have tried other methods, but this is the only way that it's worked for them, it's hard for you to just let that go and say, well, yeah, I'll just give this a little bit of effort. And so if you're somebody watching and you're saying, hey, I'm working this job, but I say maybe you're a content creator and you're realizing that your content is impacting people, or you're a photographer and you're realizing what you're doing for other people is making people feel a certain way. I would say my encouragement would be to build enough demand to where it almost forces you to make that decision versus, hey, I'm really excited. Let's go ahead and leave our job, because I will say this. Nope, a lot of startup people are not going to say this. There are months when it's been great. And when I say great, meaning like we've had a crazy amount of profit, and then there's been months where it's been break even. But it's not going to always be up like it may be when you're thinking about making that decision, but it's not going to always be down either. So you need to make sure that the demand is there, that you have the infrastructure, the team, the people, the systems to do that before you make that decision. Because I've seen countless people um, leave too early, and there, of course, there's some shame and embarrassment when you start a business and then it fails and you have to go back to corporate, and then all your friends know that, hey, what happened to that business? And they say, your little business, like, what happened to that little business you had? Now you don't even want to try it again because you either left too early or you didn't have all the things in place to do it. Now, I was confident in how I worked and how I was very confident that we were going to do well just because I wasn't going to quit. Like there's a different type of I wouldn't say pressure, but I guess when you're responsible for people, you go a little bit harder because it's not just you're
Right.
thinking about now. You're thinking about your staff and what you want to make sure they're taken care of. And so, not saying you should rush to hire people, but you should also understand that like when you make that decision, now as you used to count on your boss and your organization to make sure you were taken care of, now they're looking at you to make sure that like you're getting the job done.
Mm.
So I can't come home and say, hey, Josh, like, my bad, man. I slept in this month and we can't pay you. Like, you got
Right.
bills, I got bills, other staff members have bills. So you just need to be really, really, really sure. Please pray. Please think very hard about it. Think worst case scenario. If everything fails, can I still make sure that things are good? Because I don't think people, they don't do that. They
Right.
just, hey, I've got 10 clients this month. I'm gonna leave. It may be their first or second month. Well, let's see how you do for 6, 7 months. Is it stable? Is it ebbing and flowing? I especially like people who do content or let's say photography. There's obviously peak seasons, right? Well, we're in finance. So like people always, shout out to y'all, unfortunately, but there's people always in debt.
Mhm.
There's people that always need help. So we don't really have like a peak season. It's, hey, you need help? We're here to help you. And those are things I had to think about when we have a startup. Like, where's our low? I would say the summer, maybe technically, because we're not in front of people as much, where we're teaching in front of churches on Sunday, I mean on Wednesday night. So we're in front of a lot of people 25 weeks out of the year. So you just need to make sure that you think really hard about that decision before you make it.
Right. You touched on a little bit talking about how some people from the outside may perceive somebody taking a chance and going into entrepreneurship. One, that is a very real thing as much as people don't want to admit it, other people's opinions can persuade them and what they do and don't try per se. What would you say to somebody who is like, looks at you and be like, that happened overnight. His success wasn't organic. Like he didn't have to put the work in. It was just given to him. What would you say to that?
It's funny that you say that because I had somebody actually bring this up the other day. That was like, man, everything is going great for y'all. Like y'all are doing this, but what a lot of people don't realize about, especially my specific story and my background, is I used to work with a lot of corporations. So when we started working with corporate, it's easy for me to call a CEO because not because we just had it really that good, but I've already got relational equity with these people who make the decisions because I was recruiting them. So where it seems like we're looking or we're working with State Farm or Chick-fil-A, like I had to work with those corporations before because that was part of my job. But right now it seems like, oh, they just started a year and a half ago. How are they already working with some of the largest corporations? Well, I was already doing that
It was
before.
that 8 to 9 years of you
Yes,
being in that
that people
corporate.
don't see.
Yeah.
Churches, same thing. Like some of these relationships with churches we're working with, these are pastors that I've known for years that it's like, hey, we got something we feel like is going to help your congregation or your members. And so they already know but it goes back to my point I said earlier. If you have integrity from the get go and people trust you, regardless of what your product is, they're probably going to give you a shot just because you've always done things the right way. Now, do I think our product and our service is great? Yes. But I think if there wasn't an integral, I'm not saying about me in particular, but I'm just saying a person who you've built trust with, they're going to at least give you a shot and
Right.
say, hey, I'll try it out because you my dog or you my homeboy and it seems like you're helping people. Now, do we have tangible proof that people are
Mhm.
actually getting that helped? But also you still have to do things the right way. And so I think when it seems like an overnight is I had already built trust, I already had relationships, and then people already knew that, okay, hey, they understood that we actually had the proof, we had the trust, and we had the integrity to be able to do what we needed to do.
Yeah, and I can attest to that because you've called me and be like, "Hey, I just talked to the CEO," and he's like, "Man, I don't care. I just want to work with you. Like, I loved working with you while you were in the city and this, that, and the third." And it's just like, one, it's a blessing from God but that just also speaks to your integrity, like you were saying, and the importance of stewarding those relationships, even if you are in that corporate world, and not just being so narrow-minded and thinking you'll never get out of this. Because if you take care of business then and make the right relationships, like you're speaking about in the corporate world, it's going to pay off when you are willing to finally take that chance to go ahead and step out into entrepreneurship.
And even I was going to say, just to jump in, like, even if you're like in college watching this now, I think what's important is you never know where a person is going to land. Like there are people I went to Troy with who now run companies or are very high up at positions that I still was just, treated them well, was never talked bad about them. And you just have no clue where a person may end up landing. So when you think about how you're treating people or how you're actually stewarding relationships, you need to understand that that's important
Right.
to do that.
Yeah. So Yeah, so for those people who are currently right now in those similar roles to you as far as being in the corporate world or working for the city or whatever, what would you say to them if they're thinking about starting something and becoming an entrepreneur?
I would say if you're watching this and you're saying, hey, I'm thinking about transitioning, I'm working in a very stable job, I'm making great money. I would say my biggest thing to you is one, try to map out your worst case scenario. If I'm making $2,000 and I need to live off of X, I'm typically giving people a framework when it comes to business. Is you need to, if you're between zero to a $250,000, in let's just use it as a blanket, you should be able to take at least 50% home as an owner. When I work with a lot of business owners now, they don't take their money home enough, and so you need to make sure, okay, hey, if my living expenses are $3,000, but my business is only making six, then you can still live off of the three, and then you need to have operating expenses, which is 35, but you also have taxes now. So you need to think about what that looks like, what your low month is going to be. And please transition smoothly. Like, don't be the person who goes into your boss office and like, I'm out of here, da da da. Because once again, the same as we're even recording this, my same boss we are now about to work with now, because I still left in a very good way of like, hey, this is where I feel like the Lord is calling me to. Is there a way I can help, like at least bring in the next person? Can I help transition really well? And so, but also take the leap. Like if you're saying, hey, I'm thinking about it and the numbers line up and the relationships are there and you feel like you can be who you need to be and grow this thing, I say take the leap. The biggest part is people are scared. And I understand the fear because I was once fearful and I didn't know what this was going to look like. One of the scariest moments is leaving secure money to go chase something and pursue something that it can ebb and flow, or somebody, like say we're working with a CEO and somebody decides, hey, I don't want to work with you anymore. Well, that's the reality of the world that I'm in now. But you have to continue to work. And so my challenge, if you're watching this, hey, once, thanks again for tuning in to the channel. But please take the jump, take the leap. Obviously, if you want to know more about what we're doing and how we're helping people, you can also check us out at theearnersacademy.com. But make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see y'all in the next episode. Peace.